Hey, yo, welcome back to the Boston Sports Brothers podcast. It's great to see Big E and Gabe, and Kraz is joining us in just a minute. But the guest of the night is none other than Clem from Barstool Sports, joining us after the Super Bowl to recap quite the game actually for the Philadelphia Eagles, coming out on top and absolutely dismantling the three-peat, and lots to dive into on this game, which we'll get to in just a second. But Clem, what's going on? Good to see you. How are you tonight?
As I said before we went live, I could be better. If if I hadn't been asked to do this show 2 months ago in December, I would have thought you guys were just a bunch of motherfuckers that just wanted to see me on like my worst day because I'm a Giants fan, and I mean this has to be the worst Giants season of all time with the capper watching Saquon Barkley lead the Eagles to an incredible season and a Super Bowl on his birthday. And then you're like, oh, we'll also talk some Knicks. And then the Knicks got their shit pushed in by the Celtics on Saturday night. So it's like, there's really nothing. I mean, it's like, and then the Mets spring training is about to start. So it's like, as much as I want to be excited about that, which I am, it's like, there's always the side of me, which I'm the pre 2004 Red Sox fans know. You're just like, all right, what's going to be the thing that stabs a dagger in my heart and rips it out? So I could be better, but I guess I could be worse too. So
Hey,
I'm doing
hey,
okay.
we're nice to New Yorkers. We had a New Yorker on
It's
last week
true.
too.
Okay, okay. And hey, I truly got nothing but love for Boston because I mean, obviously I work for Barstool, so Boston Championship basically like built the company that I work for and like kept me afloat with paychecks, all the merch you guys would sell for, all the times you guys win Super Bowls and I mean Super Bowls, hell, every sport you would win titles for. And then also I'm a Mets fan, so as soon as the Mets are out of the playoffs, which is usually like August back in the day, I'm like it's anti-Yankees from there on out. So it's the Mets Sox connection, I call it. I root for the Red Sox. I'm a Knicks fan, and the Knicks and Celtics usually aren't good at the same time. And then the Patriots, believe it or not, I'm a Giants fan. Like I said earlier, I've always liked the Patriots because Belichick was I remember Belichick being the Giants' assistant coach. My dad loved him when I was growing up and would always tell me like all the different defense he did, the one against the Bills in the Super Bowl. So I was always like, I don't want to say the Patriots were my second team, but I rooted for you guys, I think, in every single Super Bowl you were in until the Giants. So I got nothing but love for you guys, and I'm truly honored and thrilled to be here.
Well, we are super excited, and we are sorry about the Eagles winning the Super Bowl. We were kind of in a lose-lose situation. Like, I'm not a
Absolutely.
big Philly fan by any means here, and they beat us in a Super Bowl back in
True.
the day as well. So, and the Chiefs losing was nice. So let's dive into it because I think everyone around New England's taken a little bit of a victory lap today. Being able to proclaim that Brady is still undoubtedly the best to ever play, and I think that's the angle from New England. But from the game perspective, just an absolute dominating performance from the Eagles start to finish. Kansas City was never in it. Maybe the worst games Mahomes has ever played on the biggest of stages, and kudos to Philly. They just played the perfect game. Big E, Gabe, feel free to tee us off. We'll go around the horn, get everyone's takes, and dissect what there is to dissect because to me it was just like this is really happening. So whoever wants to kick us off, let's roll.
Go
Gabe,
for it,
you're
Biggie.
okay. I'll go for it. I think the biggest thing that we learned from the Super Bowl yesterday is you need to have a team that has basically a great line on offense and defense. If you are built from the inside out, you can dominate. That offensive line has just been filthy for years. The tush push has been, what, going on 2, 3 years now. It dominates every time. That pass rush, oh my goodness. I think every team is going to be looking for whatever pass rush they can get. If it's going to mean that they're going to be able to take down someone like Pat Mahomes and be able to apply pressure. And the fact that they did that all without the blitz to me is crazy. Like the talent that they have on that defense is unreal, otherworldly. I think on the Patriots side of things, just talk a little bit about the Patriots side of the Super Bowl. I think it's a legacy game, right? I think everyone was talking about Mahomes, Andy Reid, the Chiefs being on that level with the Patriots. Tom Brady never had a game like this in the Super Bowl. He did have those games that he lost to the Giants, and those games he was competitive. He never really kind of threw the game. Mahomes was just awful. Andy Reid made some bad coaching decisions. Joe Tooney being moved out to left tackle out of his natural position. Not a great coaching decision. Ultimately, they're going to wear it. I think that they're still a great team and they still have a great legacy. But I think them being on the same legacy with the Patriots took a big hit last night.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with you, Eric. For me, I think we give a lot of kudos to Saquon Barkley and how he's really transformed that Eagles offense. But Jalen Hurts, Super Bowl MVP. I mean, that's pretty impressive for him. I think I heard earlier his stats in the playoffs. He is 6-3. I think 20 plus touchdowns thrown and 6 interceptions in 9 playoff games. So, I mean, for a guy that is not talked about very often, he is quietly putting up incredible numbers in the playoffs, and I just wanted to make sure he got some of his kudos. I mean, he did. He won the Super Bowl MVP, so now people hopefully will be talking a little bit more about that man.
I mean, you bring up a great point, and a few things from that takeaway to what Big E said. Tom Brady never walked off the field in the Super Bowl in the fourth quarter down. Three times the defense gave up the game tying touchdown or the game winning touchdown. Of course, two to Clem's Giants. So that will always hang over us regardless. But I think, and then back to what Gabe said, Jalen Hurts, this guy has to be talked about in the same breath as Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, all these quarterbacks that get routinely mentioned in the top five. Jalen Hurts deserves to be in that conversation because he's brought his team to this game twice. And they lost, on a holding penalty in that first game at the end of the game, or PI. And then last night was just a complete throttling. So he deserves to be in that. And for his entire history with what happened at Alabama, for Tua to come in that game and then to go to Oklahoma and for this to be his career, yeah, definitely deserves some flowers. Clem, I know it hurts, but what were your takeaways?
I mean, you guys obviously nailed the big things. I also love how, like Eric said, that the day after the Super Bowl, we always talk about either like how important it is to have the quarterback, right? Like Brady or Mahomes, or you win the game on the lines. And then in a week, our dumb brains are going to forget all that, and we'll be looking at every other position on the field and be worrying about that kind of stuff.
We need a wide receiver.
Yeah, we need a wide receiver.
Right?
We got to get someone to play quarterback, and it's like quarterback, and it's like no man, like get the quarterback, get both lines. And as a Giants fan, I can tell you, like the Eagles have just haunted my life forever because that's my personal biggest rival, my least favorite team, just because like obviously all the stuff with the fans that I've never really like. I don't like those kind of people in general. We're just honestly dickheads, right?
Yeah,
Like, and not
yeah.
every Eagles fan is like that or Philly, but I've seen my fair share in person and on TV. And then it's like all my like it's crazy. Like all my nightmares of Andy Reid. Andy Reid finally leaves, and then it's like they end up finding, I guess, Sirianni after a little bit of a weird rough patch. But like Howie Roseman, the dude just keeps doing it. All my Fletcher Cox nightmares are now just replaced with Jalen Carter nightmares. Like I'd even get like a year to breathe and be like, I don't worry about some big bastard in the middle just like blowing up every play. It's crazy. And then like Hurts is another guy. Like, they thought like every other team would just have to live with a Wentz on their cap, be dead. Nope. They took Hurts in the second round, groomed him, put him right in, and 2 Super Bowls in 3 years or whatever it's been with a title now. It's just like everything that I want the Giants to be, unfortunately, is the team in Philadelphia. And it's just ugly, man. And my favorite part of all this, and I understand where you guys are coming from, for sure. Don't get me wrong. But obviously I follow a lot of people from Boston, Barstool, and then Barstool adjacent people, and just along the way. And the amount of Patriots fans who have made like they were the third team in the game last night, and it's like, yo, you guys weren't there. And I know how annoying it must be to hear dynasty and GOAT and all these words, and they're comparing Patriots stuff to the Chiefs and even Andy Reid and Belichick, where he's gonna catch them in the wins at some point. But the amount of Patriots fans who were just puffing their chests out because the Eagles kicked the shit out of the Patriots, I thought was just kind of hilarious. So that's just me personally.
Clem, I think what it comes down to is like it wasn't that I was I wasn't happy for the Eagles fans. I was just so happy that the Chiefs fans had to drink their tears. It was just it was all about them, and it had nothing to do with the Eagles. It was just I wanted them to get their comeuppance. I wanted them to just, lose and feel it.
I was the same way when you guys beat the Eagles. I mean, the first time and then the last time, and I was just like, "Oh, this feels so good." And then, goddamn Malcolm Butler benching to this day. That's the one thing about last night. Didn't hurt as much because the Eagles, when they had never won a Super Bowl, it was just so great to hold it over those jerk fans' heads that they had never lived through a Super Bowl. Then once that Malcolm Butler benching happened, and what was the 41 points they gave up? Or it was ridiculous game.
It was awful. Awful.
I shouldn't be bringing it up. I apologize, but it was just so awful that like I just wish they could be feeling that. And I'm the biggest thing I think we can all agree. I'm just happy I don't have to hear about the refs today. That was such a played out narrative. And listen, there was a lot of times where it's like, guys, like even like at finally by the last game, the last offender was like, I can't do this anymore. It's just getting too crazy. But it's just I've never been a referee guy. Like, don't blame the refs unless it's egregious stuff. And it's gotten to the point where the Chiefs, if they had gotten helped out, both teams kind of got screwed last night in a weird way, right? Like early in the
Yeah.
game, there was a lot of bad calls.
Yeah, it was. I'm happy the refs weren't really a factor at all. DeAndre Hopkins can
He
go
tried to
piss.
stir
Oh,
that pot.
Oh, that
Yeah.
was
Like,
terrible.
are you kidding me, dude? You got your ass blown out. Like, you have nothing to hang on to
That
whatsoever.
draw pass when he was wide open was
Yeah.
I think he could
egregious.
have scored a touchdown even with old man Hopkins' legs. Like if you look the way the field was,
He
against
had
a
so
couple of right
much.
blocks, he's could score a touchdown on that play.
Yeah.
Oh,
He could have been rolling. A few like adjacent things for the Super Bowl that I think we should dive into. First, the Barstool coverage of the Super Bowl year in and year out is bar
Amazing.
none unbelievable. Coach Gruden deserves a fucking Oscar. That guy has been one of the most
The
unbelievable hires for
best
Barstool.
things.
And the credit to him really is how much he's just embraced all the different elements of it from a content perspective, like doing out of order, doing all the shows, having his own show, being on the like
Pink
and the way
Pony
that he
Club with
just
Mubi.
yeah,
Yeah,
like
I didn't have that on my bingo board this year, and it was hilarious when I saw that yesterday.
Unreal.
so we're praising him like everybody else has. He's been unbelievable. And just like what, the usual things, the amount of people that embrace Barstool when they're down at the Super Bowl is great. Sorry to Team ZD who didn't
oh.
bring home the trivia there with the dozen, but you guys have been a powerhouse throughout there.
That's why I can't talk too bad about the Chiefs' performance last night because the only team that played worse than the Chiefs did in the Super Bowl was Team ZD at our tournament. And it's on me. I'm going to take all the blame. I had like two or three of the answers for people to know the dozen our trivia contest. I should have like the dozen is a weird game, and if you guys watch at home, I'm sure you guys play it enough and kind of have your thing. But like the best thing about us ZD boys is I'll say a name or an answer, and then I'll be like, I'm not too sure, but maybe I didn't do that because I just got so scared the other team would hear me. And Portnoy is great. I'd be like, nope, Clem, you like I could see the twinkle in your eye. That might be the right answer. I had a bunch of those. We wouldn't have had to use all our lifelines that we ended up using on a lot of those questions, and we may have a chance. But bad game for ZD. My apologies. And like you said with Gruden, dude, Gruden backstage is like the man. Like just everyone's coming up to him, hey coach, nice to meet you. Because a lot of us, we live in different parts. Some of us are remote, some New York, whatever. And everyone came together for the tournament, and he was backstage and giving everyone the time of day, like just acting like a buddy or like a legit, just like another employee number 400, John Gruden, and just such a good dude. And like you said, the guy just doesn't care, man. He'll just play along and takes it his own direction. I love him, man. He's awesome.
Yeah. Other things. What did people think of halftime? Gabe's, Eric, what I mean,
Halftime
Kendrick
show,
Lamar is
yeah.
great, but I think what were your thoughts there?
I think there were varying thoughts on this one. I mean, I thought it was okay. I'm not like the biggest Kendrick Lamar fan, but I feel like it was kind of political to the point of like I was kind of bored with it. And then, at the end when Not Like Us came on and it was, that's kind of when he called out Drake and he started kind of going off in that direction. It did get a little bit exciting, but overall I was not that impressed.
You liked it, right?
Uh, so I liked, I mean, obviously I liked Not Like Us. That was what everyone wanted to hear. And I think it was kind of cool they teased a little bit. I did think like some of the song selection was a little funny. I was really kind of hoping for some of his older stuff from like Good Kid,
Money
Mad City.
trees.
Money Trees would have been awesome. Like he has some really great bangers from back in the day that I was hoping he was going to kind of just, throw one out there because, he's had a career for 10, 15 years now. And it was really mostly all new stuff except for All the Stars with SZA because we all knew that she was going to come out and be a part of it. I didn't really get the Squid Games thing, so that to me was a little bit of like a weird choice. But yeah, I mean, overall, I'd probably say it was like a 5 out of 10. It wasn't bad, wasn't anything great. I mean, it's
There's
no
been better.
Prince, it's no Prince in doing Purple Rain in the rain, so or
Yeah,
like Snoop and Dr. Dre a couple years ago, like that
yeah,
was and Eminem, that was unreal.
that was unreal and like hit multiple generations. I think Kendrick Lamar, if you're like mid-30s, approaching 40 and younger, you know who he is and maybe some of his songs. But like our parents, they don't know who the fuck Kendrick Lamar is
Oh
or any
my
of his
God.
songs. And they're all,
I just
they're
picture
all
my
watching the
mom like tapping my dad on the shoulder, being like, "What is he saying?" Like, it's just like it does not reach
No,
our parents' generation at all. They were not fans, I will say.
the choreography that they had was amazing, and I liked all that. The Samuel Jackson thing
Yeah,
was weird.
That was
Uh,
that was interesting.
yeah,
I,
yeah.
I no, I mean, give me Samuel L. Jackson anytime, anywhere. I'm always for it. Like I had no problem with Samuel L. being there. I just think it was some of the elements just didn't mix all the way I thought they were going to. Like the American thing with the Squid Games thing, I just didn't. I just thought it was a little too much.
Yeah, lots of different directions for it. And then I think, the game was 34 to nothing at the after halftime in the second half. And don't let the score fool you in terms of the final score and the stat padding that Mahomes had at the end of the game. Like he played terribly. Kelsey really did nothing. Taylor Swift getting booed was kind of funny. But I think that like took over as well. Like the Eagles fans and the Eagles presence down in New Orleans. Clem, when were you down? You were down there, obviously. What was the vibe like down there? Just like we were talking about earlier, that New Orleans has got to be one of the most amazing places for a Super Bowl to take place.
Yeah, it was awesome. I've been to New Orleans once in my 20s, and I actually went to a Giants game and got there. I think we got there Saturday afternoon, straight to Bourbon Street, getting crazy at night, couple hours sleep, back at it at like 8 a.m. to tailgate on Bourbon Street, essentially. Walk to the stadium, and the stadium is awesome. Like the Superdome is just super loud. It's not the fanciest stadium by any means, but it's just like a good environment, and the people in New Orleans are just awesome. Everything about New Orleans is awesome. The food is so unique. The like not to get like fancy on you guys, but like the architect, it's just so weird. The architecture, like it's like a blend of like American, French, like, and it's like its own country. I don't know how to describe it, but anyone who's been to New Orleans knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And the food is just so unique and good. It's just, and again, you can party your brain out, in the area. And there were I usually go to the Super Bowl week at least. It's usually like Wednesday to Friday because our dozen tournaments are usually on Thursday. This year we had to go earlier on a Tuesday because of like I guess scheduling issues. So it really didn't have the vibe of like Super Bowl week. But when I was there, I could tell you, it was like if you saw a fan of a team, it was like 80% chance it was Eagles fans. And when
Okay.
I was going home on Wednesday morning, a full plane had just got out. I don't know where it was from, but there was someone with like their phone playing Fly Eagles Fly, and they were singing it in the airport. And I was like, oh man. So I feel like it was an Eagles town, obviously before the game happened, and by the end of the game, it was just pure green everywhere. So it was very cool. New Orleans is like a legendary city. And to anyone listening, because I'm one of those people, I'm early 40s now. I did not know a word of the Kendrick. I'm Kendrick Lamar was right when I got out of rap music. Basically, it was just because that's when I started having kids. We had a house. We're just out of like the life of just. I just grew out of hip hop a little bit, I guess. And people are like, "Oh, they're not all his hit songs." I'm like, those were songs he doesn't even have hits for because I was like, I was lost until Not Like Us as well. But for anyone from my age, younger, Vegas is obviously a great spot if you want to party, bachelor parties, all that stuff. Give New Orleans a try. I'm telling you, that's the one thing my friends and I said. We wish we hit this earlier in life and did it harder because you can really just have a great time. So it's awesome down there. And it definitely had more of an Eagles City vibe before the Eagles, I'm sure, just took over the town last night. I can't imagine. That's the other thing. Partying on Bourbon Street after your team wins the championship must be
Oh,
an unbelievable feeling. My
oh,
buddy, I'm a Syracuse fan. My buddy grew up in Syracuse. He went down there when they won the national championship with Melo. And he's like, it was the best night of my life by far.
yeah. I did my bachelor party in New Orleans. I had been there for
Oh, yeah.
work. I had been there for work and I said to myself when I went there, I'm like, when I have my bachelor party, I'm coming to New Orleans because it was just that. I'm like, this is the place that you have to go with your friends for like 2, maybe 3 nights maximum, and
Yes.
just get after it. Especially now, like there's nothing. And there was I think Eddie and the Chicago guys on the dog walk, where it's like an MFK with Vegas, Nashville, and New Orleans, which is
Oh,
that's a tough one. I don't even know. I'm in Vegas right now, and it for the game not being here, there was a vibe yesterday, but I don't know. I don't think I could answer that question without some more thought to it. But any final Super Bowl takeaways? I guess great for Barstool as well. You guys have a huge presence in Philadelphia. I think Max and Roan and Gilly. That guy's
Kelly.
unbelievable.
that
I,
guy's the
I
man.
can't stop listening to the damn whistle song now because of him.
As much as it pains me that the Eagles won a championship, again, that pain is definitely not as bad because they've already won one. And I truly do mean this. I am happy for Max because that guy has had just like the worst luck when it comes to like just having his guts ripped out on camera year after year. And I've only really been, I went like, I think I was at an Eagles Giants 2 years ago when the Giants made the playoffs. But this year with Mets Phillies, we were in like a blood feud with the Phillies, obviously. And Max brought the fucking thunder like he does every single stream. And I said to him afterwards, like after the Mets had clinched the series, I said, dude, like, listen, man, I just got to respect you because he brings it. It's not easy, especially if you're like the only opposing fan in the room. You have a bunch of like bloodthirsty Mets fans around you. And I was like, when he was there, he actually got to watch it live. I was like, that's pretty cool. Like, I don't want anyone in Philadelphia to ever be happy for a second. But if it has to be that, it's kind of like Saquon, too. I'm sure if you guys have any Giants friends, I imagine it's a little scattered with how people feel about Saquon winning. It's like, I feel as good for Saquon as I can, and it's really not a lot. But it's like if anyone deserved to live that, it's him. From like my experience as a Giants fan in the last 10 years or whatever it's been, I wish like he'll never be like the all-time great Giant and like a guy the way we feel about Eli or anyone who was on those Super Bowl teams or basically anyone that didn't go to the goddamn Eagles or Cowboys. Nonetheless, though, it's like fuck, man, that dude went through hell. If I could escape the Giants, I probably would, but I'm an idiot and I'm a lifer with these fucking losers.
Well, it's an interesting spot the Giants are in right now, just as the Patriots are. We kind of are the dregs of the league at this moment. We have a quarterback, which I think is nice. You guys have some nice skill players. Malik Neighbors is amazing, but we both have a lot of holes to fill up. So it'll be interesting to see what transpires over the next couple of years. Maybe we'll meet each other again in the Super Bowl.
If that happens, man, oh my God. People are going to like love it, but also hate it. It'll be like this Super Bowl on a much different level, I could see. What's the name of that goddamn kicker who fucking missed that kick last year on purpose? Because that's like the reason you guys have Drake May is because that boneheaded, that goddamn kicker, Ryan or something like that.
Ryland.
Yeah. Because that
Ryland
was the game that basically, like, once we had that, I was like, well, we're definitely not going to be better than the Patriots in the draft now. And then, Tommy DeVito had a 3-game run. It wasn't even Tommy DeVito. It was Wink Martindale's defense has played lights out for 3 games in a row. DeVito happened to be the guy taking the snaps for those games. I think we had like 12 turnovers in like 3 games. It was something ridiculous. And because of that little run, Jaden Daniels, Drake May, out of the range. You guys have obviously the much bigger puzzle piece. I'm happy we at least have a weapon. You guys know you need that weapon, though, because that quarterback can only do so much without the weapon. And then we're going to have to kind of like squint at these quarterbacks in the draft and try to convince ourselves he's going to be the answer. So, yeah, I wrote a blog today. The Giants are officially a loser franchise in my mind, which I consider it's the bottom rung of teams, the teams that always not only lose, but it's like embarrassing stories day after day. The Jets are kind of like the gold version of that. The Browns are kind of the silver, I guess, right? And then it's like us, the Bears, I think, kind of fit in there. The Raiders for sure. You guys have a few, like, you guys don't really have a lot of that. You guys had a little dysfunction. Obviously, the Belichick Kraft stuff was kind of ugly, but it's like you have to do this consistently year after year. If you guys fuck up May, you guys will then be known as like a loser franchise, but you guys are not nearly there yet.
Do you want them to draft a quarterback, or would you rather just get a bridge guy for a year and hope for Arch Manning?
That, brother, you said it. And all these goddamn Texas fans are like, he's not leaving. He's already said he's going to graduate. And I'm like, shut up, stupid Texas fans. Like, just let me. Then I'm like, let's draft Shador. He'll bust in 2 years, and then we draft Arch. I'm already thinking 3 years from now. You know how unhealthy that is? I don't even enjoy the regular season. Before the Giants fans, the thing is, like, we're mock drafting before Halloween for like 8 of the last 10 years. It's crazy, but that's truly where we are. And every Giants fan is the same way. We're just like, bring a Manning home. It's like a Stark must always be in Winterfell. A Manning must always be at MetLife Stadium as the New York Giants quarterback. The thing is, though, even if Archie could swing it kind of like he did with Eli and play the Godfather, I don't think the Giants are in good enough shape, like as a franchise. I don't think he wants to do that anymore. I think he saw what the Chargers were and said, Eli's not going to the Chargers. And the Giants were a very good landing place for him. The Giants are like just as bad as the Chargers were back then. It's just, dysfunction and idiocy left and right. So I'm honestly at the point where even if they draft a quarterback, even if the quarterback looks good, all that kind of stuff, I am at the point now where I don't even get optimistic until I see it for like 2 to 3 years in a row, because we get these things where we make the playoffs and we get the rug pulled out from under us. It's happened twice in the last like 8 years or whatever. I'm done being like Mr. Positivity with them. They've lost that right with me. Which again, I feel like with the Patriots, you guys, they've earned the right to, like, you got Vrabel there, you got May, you have like potentially an owner that has won the Super Bowls, but at some point, like, they have to show that they can do it again, right?
This year has to be different than it's been the past 2 years. Like, they have to show that bringing in Vrabel and getting some players and like his people in here and the ability for them to I would love for them to make the playoffs and just like check that box and get May there. But it just has to look better. The last 2 seasons for the Patriots have been terrible, terrible football. The dismantling of the Belichick Brady situation. Mayo is just a complete mistake, as we've talked about many, many times over. And so this is a reset. Like, you got the guy, you got the quarterback, you have a high draft position. It's time to start turning that corner. Like, the good grace, if you will, Clem, that you're talking about with the Patriots has been just about used up in a 2-year time period. And I think it's because, and this is something for the Chiefs to think about as well. As your dynasty and as your team like starts to age out, can you turn it over? I think that's the most important, like, impressive thing the Patriots did, is that they turned that over, to a whole new roster the second half. But with Brady being the constant. But the thing with Mahomes is, can he do that? Like, does he have another 10 to 15 years in him to do that? While we're on this topic, let's talk like any NFL offseason thoughts. We'll sort of like merge with Around Town, fellas, in terms of, we have a segment where we go around to each of the teams and do any updates, Clem. But let's sort of merge it here. Just any NFL offseason thoughts in terms of, now that we turn the page to the draft and free agency. We got a little bit of time off here, but anything that you're hoping for or looking for these teams to do as the 2025 season will be here before we know it.
I'm hoping that the Patriots look at the Eagles and build their team kind of how the Eagles looked like in the trenches last night. They need to draft some studs on the defensive line. They need to draft some studs on the offensive line. They need to sign free agents on the offensive side of the ball. They've got a lot of work to do. The one thing that does worry me is, having Wolf in the room still, and he hasn't had a great track record with the
And
draft.
Matt
I mean, he
Groh.
drafted
Ugh.
Drake May, but it fell in his lap. I mean, the next pick was Polk, and he's been, hopefully, I mean, he's kind of been a bust at this point. So not even kind of, he has been a bust at this point. So that worries me a bit. I think getting Vrabel and he brought some buddies along to kind of add in that room. So for off-season wise, Patriots, I just hope they kind of follow that Philadelphia model on defense. And I mean, Philadelphia's O-line is disgusting too. So like, if they could be anywhere close to looking like that, I think the future looks bright.
Yeah, I think honestly, I'm knee deep into mocks. I'm very, very much in the camp of Abdul Carter. Please, please fall in our lap at 4. I'd be happy with Travis Hunter too, and I think that's Travis Hunter, the cornerback, not Travis Hunter, the wide receiver. Although I'll use him in some packages if we get him. But those guys, Will Campbell, we can get one of those 3 guys, preferably Abdul Carter. I'll be pretty happy. Really, I think like T. Higgins is the big guy that I think the Pats should go after. They need a skill player. I think Hunter Henry is pretty serviceable as a tight end, especially if you get someone else, bring back Austin Hooper. Again, another serviceable tight end. Give him someone that is arguably, I don't know. I can't say Higgins is clear number 1. He's 2, but he'll be a number 1 here. So we need someone that's at least a 2 league wide to have some sort of a threat out there. And please find some shifty running back in the 3rd round, because they're, unfortunately, unless you're getting someone like a Saquon or a Bijan Robinson, they're a dime a dozen, and you can find someone later in the draft. But we got to move on from Stevenson. Stevenson is no bueno. Although I do like Tyrone Tracy on the Giants. I think he was a good find last year.
Yeah, for all the shit Shane got for letting Saquon go, which I mean was the right move for the Giants. It just sucked. He had to go to the division rival that has an awesome line that would make him just like hit his potential to every single like corner of it. at the same point, like Tracy was pretty good for us for a fraction of the price. And this season, I do feel like they're saying there's a lot of good running backs in the draft. So I figure it's pretty deep that you don't have to spend a first or second rounder. So that will give the Patriots like a little explosion. And I was gonna say, like, I don't know where everyone is with. Is Wolf just done that one draft? Was that the only draft? Wolf
Just
did?
that one.
Okay,
Yeah.
which I don't think people love, obviously, other than May. It's like at least you have the head coach who is. I mean, Vrabel's going to want the big and uglies, right? That's kind of his like mantra, at least. So it's like the guy was winning with Ryan Tannehill and had Ryan Tannehill making playoff runs, and obviously ended the Brady era, right? The
Yeah, I was
Tannehill
at that game.
Yeah.
I
Logan
saw
Ryan.
Brady's last home game. He threw a pick.
Yep, that's
The
right.
Logan Ryan.
Yeah.
That's right.
Oh my
Yeah.
God! Look
Oh,
who just
Oh,
got back from
R2S2.
R2S2 coming to the rescue. Clem, he actually had to go to the shop where that woman in the Mandalorian is and has the whole fight.
the little creatures climbing in his computer.
Yeah.
Those little
Uh,
droids.
Yeah.
he'll be on in any second now. So I think that's some obviously great Super Bowl recap there, and congrats to the Eagles. Lots of different things we talked about there, and a little bit of football offseason. Let's turn our attention to basketball now.
We're moving up
And
the
talk.
positivity scale, right? So we're starting at the
Yeah.
bottom and we're moving our way up.
So, the Celtics had a few games and have sort of been a little bit up and down over the past couple of weeks in terms of there's something weird going on at the TD Garden where there's for some reason they go out on the road and seem to play much better on the road, where they just were at Madison Square Garden, where they really, as Clem said before we came on, just put a beat down on the Knicks start to finish. But the Knicks are a very good team and a threat in the East for sure with the talent that they have on the roster. I don't think you can take too much from a midseason game like that. But any thoughts from that game, fellas, just in terms of what we saw?
I mean, for the Celtics, they were just clicking on all cylinders. I really don't think there was. I think the nice thing that I took away from that game is Neemias Queta had a really good game, and he's a guy who I think you're gonna have to rely on him because as much as we all love Porzingis, the chances of him being healthy for a playoff run are slim, right? So you're gonna need a guy like Queta to come in and step up and have a great game. So that was great. I don't really think I took too much away from the Knicks, honestly. I think that they're a little banged up right now. They need the All-Star break. Towns clearly wasn't right. Jalen Brunson's a gamer, so he's always going to go out and ball out as long as he's relatively healthy enough to do so. I just think it was too far gone, and it really never got close. So I'm really not putting too much stock in that for the Knicks. I think on a whole, they haven't played us well so far this year, but it's regular season, and there's a pretty good chance we're going to be in the playoffs. So I'm quite excited about the prospect of the Knicks and Celtics meeting in the playoffs. It's always good for the league, but we'll see what happens.
This is fucking wild, dude. Now he's got two.
Duplicate.
He's
He's
multiplied.
cloned himself. R2S2 cloned him. And he's still not on. This is incredible. I love seeing the behind
He's symmetric.
Uh, Clem, what are your thoughts on the Knicks this season? I think we were all shocked with the move that they made right before the season started. Our buddy Max, who was on with us last week, is a New Yorker as well, and we previewed the game with him. And he was sort of saying, I think any new team has to integrate those pieces, and it takes a little while to get going. But almost 2/3 through the season, what are your takeaways in terms of the team and pre or post the trade? What do you feel? Do you feel they were in better shape before or where they're at now?
Yeah, so I am wearing my Knicks shirt. I didn't hide from me. I had to rock it. The Giants shirts are like basically I didn't put Giants ornaments on the tree this year. That's where we are with me and the Giants right now. The Eli Manning ornament is the only ornament that I was allowed on, and my kids were so confused. And I was like, they don't earn this. They have to earn the Christmas tree back, kids.
That's us with the Red Sox.
Yeah, right. Yeah, the Red Sox are kind of doing the same thing to you guys in the baseball world. I agree with your buddy. I mean, it was just crazy to see that trade go down. And Cat was always a guy we heard was potentially going to be a Nick, and we're always just like that soft motherfucker in Minnesota. And it's just like you just always wanted more for him. But like at the same point, I mean, listen, Julius Randle chose us when he didn't have to. It was after the Durant and Kyrie snubbing, and it was like our lowest moment as fans. And granted, I'm sure not every team was just willing to pay him all the money in the world, but he came in, worked his ass off. All NBA twice. And like, but at the same point, like I was very much ready to see Julius Randle leave. And I think all the Minnesota Timberwolves fans are finding out why. I was thrilled with the trade. It hurt losing Dante. We said the same thing last year about Emmanuel Quickly. Like Quickly was like Dante, and RJ was like Randall, where it's like those two drove us nuts. The lefties drove us nuts. The other two guys we loved, and we weren't sure about the guy we were getting. And then OG came in and like won every game, as he started with the Knicks. And I do appreciate you guys being so nice to the Knicks during this because I was not feeling so not good about the Knicks and not sure what I could do because I was so excited to get another chance at the Celtics after that banner night beatdown you guys put on us. And we never got a chance to face you last year because everyone on our team died by the end of the Pacers series. And then they just came out. They had, I think, 3 full days rest. They had 2 members of the Celtics starting lineup out. And granted, like you said, OG was out, Cat was hurt, but it was at home and they just laid an egg. And it kind of was like, I don't know if this team as currently constructed can be competitive with the Celtics. My buddy texted me and goes, all he wrote was, that game was very discouraging. And I'm like, who uses discouraging? Like just texting your buddies. But that was the perfect word for it. I was so discouraged that they just were honestly not competitive for most of the game. Obviously, they cut it to 3 at one point, but it kind of was just like, oh my eyes, like, man, I don't know. We're gonna have to see what they can do against the Celtics, later in the season, and they still have to face the Cavs a bunch of times. They only faced the Cavs once and got killed by them. So I'm not feeling good. We're gonna have to see what it looks like when OG's back, and like with Mitch too. Mitch is gonna make a big difference, but they're gonna have to figure all that out on the fly. I've come to the point where I'm saying to myself, this season, I think they can compete. I think it's clearly the Celtics first, Cavs second. I think we're probably the 3rd team in the East, but I think there is a tier or 2 above us with you and the Cavs, and that game showed it. Tatum, whenever he needed to get a bucket, he got it. And I don't know how you guys, if you guys are one of the people who fight these accusations. He's just a boring superstar. It's okay. He's a boring superstar. He's fucking awesome. You guys want to title with him. He's just boring, but he's awesome. He's sick. He's sick. Exactly. And it's good he's a boring superstar because you don't always want the superstars that are crazy because, you never know when they're like, I think Jaylen Brown's a little crazy in a different way, right? I think you'd rather, would you hate it if Jaylen Brown just started acting like Jason Tatum tomorrow? I think everyone would be very happy with that, right? So, as a Knicks fan, discouraging is the way to put it. I want to believe that by the end of the season, we'll at least have enough of our stuff in order. But I do think like this is the season where we put all the ingredients together, fine tune it in the offseason this year. And then next year, this team has been together for so long. I mean, Tatum, then Brown, and then you've slowly been adding the pieces. And then Porzingis and Drew were like the exclamation point. And I'll tell you, man, it took a lot of the wind out of Matt says. I thought like if we met in the playoffs, it would be a 7-game series, maybe 6. At this point, I'm like, man, I hope we can get there. So I was very discouraged, I have to admit, after that game.
I get it. You guys want to have that game against the Celtics where you a close game, win it, and whatever. But like everyone's having those sort of games at this point in the season. We played the Mavericks 2 days earlier, and we didn't have a few guys out in that game. There was no Anthony Davis before he got injured, and they absolutely kicked our ass. So I mean, it's going to happen to the best of teams at this point of the season. I still think the Knicks could potentially turn a gear that we haven't seen yet. I think the question is, will they be healthy enough going into the postseason? That's always been the knock on Tibbs, and clearly was last postseason. It was an injury ward by the time like they ended. So I think my question to you, Clem, is how do you feel about Tibbs, and do you feel like he can put the team in a position to win by keeping them healthy enough to be in the playoffs?
Yeah, it's like the chicken or the egg too, because and I love Tibbs. I always have thought this, and I thought it until last year, before all the injuries hit in the playoffs, where I was always like, I feel like he was the guy, the coach that was gonna basically correct all the crap that was lingering with this franchise for years in terms of being non-competitive. And then the next coach is going to be the guy that takes us to the mountaintop. You know what I mean? He's kind of the fixer, kind of what I feel like Pete Carroll is going to be with the Raiders. And then the next coach, when they have everything in place, will potentially, hopefully get him to the next spot. It's so tricky though. Like there's stuff coming out about how playing your guys in the regular season is actually good because he doesn't make them really practice. They don't have physical practice. They just do walkthroughs essentially in practice. So there is something to be said. Like now they all fell apart last year, and then it's a chicken and the egg thing in terms of the rotation. It's not deep enough, but it's like, is it because he doesn't trust the guys and give them shots? So At this rate, it's you kind of just like we're held hostage. A guy like OG already is injury prone. Porzingis would probably be dead if he was still with the Knicks right now with Tibbs, right? You figure that's the guy who like they wouldn't even allow Tibbs to, they couldn't even hire Tibbs if Porzingis was still here.
Below the knee amputation. Like,
He'd be in bubble wrap until April. Be like, all right, take him out, go put him in.
Yeah, exactly. So it's really tricky, man. I don't know the true answer, but it's like this is what we got, and you got to just keep going with it. And if it gets to the point where it's so egregious that it's Tibbs' fault, I know the front office will move on from him, even though they truly do love him. But it's like you read all the different stories about how prepared he has them, and you're like, shit, this is like the guy. And I think when the front office has to just get the players he trusts. He'll play the players he trusts. The only thing is he only has 6 of them right now, and there's really, you guys know this with the apron, there's just no way to do it. They couldn't have made a move really here without really hamstringing themselves in the future. I think this offseason is when they can actually start make a move or two, and I think next year's team is going to be the team that they're going to say, this is it moving forward. And we're going to hope you guys get sold to the Fenway group. We're going to hope the Cavs, maybe take a step back a little bit. I'm hoping that's in their meetings. They're just laying this all out. And it's like, who is the new owner? I was thrilled when I heard Jeffrey Lurie say he doesn't want to buy him because I'm like, I can't deal with this guy in football and basketball now.
Yeah, well, I'll take Jeffrey if he wants to over some of the other potential candidates that keep Fenway Sports Group away from the Boston Celtics. I think we're on
keep them away from any of our teams.
It's we can do some more Celtics talk in just a bit, but one last thing, and I want to talk a little bit of baseball and just obviously the Mets taking Soto in the sweepstakes. I think as Red Sox fans, we were hopeful that they were going to be able to be in on him. And Uncle Stevie just has a pocket that goes deeper than anybody else. And so, they end up with him. But what expectations for the Mets going into the season? Like, is there a vibe that it's almost World Series or bust now? Or is it more so, okay, we got a superstar player in a very good roster. This team should be in position for the foreseeable future to be competitive?
Yeah, I think that's the way, foreseeable future, competitive. The things Cohen did, going out and signing Soto. I can't remember this, and I don't know if any of you guys know. Like, I can't remember the last time the Yankees had a guy, especially a guy on their team, that they wanted to resign and didn't resign. And it came down to they were just simply outbid, and they knew they were going to get outbid, right? So that was it was a seismic moment for Mets baseball, New York baseball in general. Last year was such a magical season that it was like, I mean, you guys know how it is. Sometimes your teams aren't the most talented, but it's just couple guys cowboying up and a couple little magical things happen, right? And you never know. Like, baseball is so fucking weird like that. I just don't get it. So I feel like World Series or bust. The good thing is the Dodgers kind of take that pressure off of us. It's the World Series or bust for the Dodgers every year out. We're in the National League with the Dodgers. I wish we weren't. We are. So it's World Series or bust for them. And our division is, I mean, maybe the best in baseball because the NL East, you got the Braves and you have the Phillies. So it's just an absolute, gauntlet that we're going through with them as well. So the fact that we got Soto, and I know, listen, if it couldn't be the Mets, I was hoping for the Red Sox. I hope you guys are in the same boat and let the Juan Soto haunt the Yankees from here on out.
Oh, I got the clips, Clem. Going back to this fall, I was fully on the Mets. They were a fun team to watch, and I don't think any of us can really root for the Dodgers. They are literally like what the Yankees personification was. They're the modern day evil empire. And so, as weird as it is to root for a New York team, I mean, the Mets they were fun and electric to watch. So I think, obviously they're on the upswing with Soto, and then big news with Alonso coming back as well.
Mm-hmm.
Got to bring Pete back. They're loading up. I think they're primed for a good year. We'll see where that goes.
And you guys know how it is in Boston. You guys had like the little baby face dude. It's all about the nerd that you have in the front office, right? And we got Stearns. He was, Milwaukee. He built Milwaukee into like a perennial powerhouse or a competitor every year, despite spending $0. Like, he's here, and I just trust him. Like, he's going to find the pitchers. And I don't know if the Red Sox are like this. For years with the Wilpons, we would just keep wheeling out the same guys because they were getting paid or just on the roster. This guy signs a guy, and he cuts him like after a game if he doesn't think he has it. And I'm like, that's the kind of leader we need here to just get people in, and if you're not producing, you're out. And he doesn't mess around. So I feel confident. It's like pitching. I feel like they're kind of dealing with pitching a little bit. I think around baseball, the way that people are dealing with running backs, like, just think about it. How many bullpen games do we have in the world in the playoffs this year, right? And like, even the Dodgers, the team that spends $1 billion, going bullpen games in like every round of the playoffs, or you're dealing with guys with like 4 or 5 ERAs, and it's a different way to build a staff instead of just let's throw Kurt Schilling and Randy Johnson at the top of the rotation. It's just not that way anymore, because I think the premium on arms and the way those arms snap kind of just like changed the whole game and all that. So I feel good. If you look at our pitching staff, it ain't looking pretty, but it got the job done last year, and it's I think even better than it was last year. And our lineup could be like one of the best in baseball now. And 1 through 5, it goes Lindor, Soto, Vientos, Alonso, Nimmo. That's a really tough top 5 up there. So I'm feeling good right now, and I do hope you guys bounce back this year. I have what's his name, Jared Duran, right?
Yeah.
Jaron Duran, yeah.
He's my fantasy keeper. I drafted him last year. I didn't know anything about him, and he was like my favorite player in baseball by the end of the season, because I was like, who is this guy? He's incredible. So I was a big fan of Jared Duran. Oh, wait a second. Oh, wait, did he have a couple of problematic news stories with that Jared Duran?
Oh, yeah, that was him. That was him.
All right, cut that from
He's
a great guy.
Great guy.
He's a great guy. We're excited for the Red Sox. I think we were pissed at the end of the season and just the way that they have and not investing in the team the way that they should have. They still haven't spent any money in free agency really this offseason, and Bregman is still the name that's rumored to be out there for them to potentially bring him in. But they vastly have improved the pitching staff. Both starting rotation and the bullpen. So that's one thing they have going for them for sure. And I hope that we've all talked about this, that it's just a competitive baseball season. Give us meaningful games into September, and hopefully a playoff run.
Do you know? Oh God, he's back again. R2S2. Do you know that Jeff Wilpon once said we want meaningful games in September, and that like broke our Met fan hearts, because we're like, dude, that should not be the goal for a big market team. But it kind of is like the goal at the end of the day, right? When you hit the state that the Red Sox and the Mets are in, it's crazy. It's crazy.
You gotta get in the dance, and
that's true.
I'm trying to get in the dance.
He's trying so hard.
Sam is trying.
Cracking me the fuck up.
I feel like every time he's coming, someone's talking, and he just can't get a word in.
It's not. I don't know.
Hey, there he is.
Can you hear us?
Yeah, dude, I'm gonna fucking smash this fucking computer into fucking like 16 fucking million pieces. I swear to fucking Christ. I don't know what the fuck is wrong.
Let him cook. Let him cook.
Fuck me, man. What the fuck was that about? This fucking piece of fucking junk. Shit. Oh my God, I just drove 70 miles to come here to this. I just want to shit and talk about sports. Oh my God. Let my house be done already. It's been fucking 14 months. This fucking guy just fucking drove away and disappeared.
All time, Brett. Oh my God. All right. Well,
back.
On the bright side.
Hey, I'm Sam, Clem. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Sam. I've heard about R2S2, the legend, and now I get to actually meet the man behind the computer.
It's not gonna be there that long, believe me. It's probably gonna I don't know, another 4 maybe 5 hours out of it before I fucking snap it. But
is it like a Dell computer from like back in the day? What are we dealing with here? Is it?
It's an old Acer. It's an old Acer.
Throw it to the bottom of the child's.
Dump it like the tea.
So that's the plan.
Very nice.
Right off the pike. Just, someone's tailing me.
That's it. All time Boston Sports Brothers pod moment right there. I mean, that was unbelievable.
My face hurts from smiling too much. Oh my God.
Too good. Just like trying to get in for 30 minutes finally does. Epic rant.
30, 50.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's We are, Kraz. We'll get some takes from you, but we're at the sort of wrap up stage here with Clem with our questions that we have here in the outline. So, Clem, we're going to shift the attention to some more about your work with Barstool, and I think where I'd love to start is for folks that may not know, like, what's your Barstool origin story? How did you begin working there? And obviously, you've had quite the journey since.
Yeah, it's been quite a run. So back in I got into Barstool early, like 2011, 2012. And a lot of the time I get there like from links to like the internet back in the day, it was like you get a link about, oh, check out this like funny blog or whatever. And a lot of times it would be KFC because I'm a Mets fan, so it'll be a lot of Mets stuff. And then like sooner or later I'd somehow find a Big Cat blog or a Prez blog. And then when I found out about the Super Page, my head almost exploded because I was like, oh my God, everything's right there in one easy piece. So I became a fan. 2013, at that time I was working for ESPN, not doing any kind of content stuff, but I was testing phones, testing computers, apps, and stuff like that. Big sports fan, obviously, and I was like, I didn't really love it, but whatever. It was a paycheck, and it was, I think, about, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 months after we had signed a 30-year mortgage at the house. My wife's pregnant, and I was told that I was being laid off by ESPN, after X amount of weeks of severance. And I remember Portnoy had a blog up, and you guys are old OG Stoolies, so you remember this. He had the Uncle Sam, I Want You.
Yep.
And he's like, if you want to blog for if you want to work for Barstool, start your own blog, act like you work for us, post, whenever you can, and then send it in. So it's like, you know what? I'm just gonna just do it. I'm gonna rip it. And I always compare this. This is a little bit of a dated reference, but hopefully someone here knows it. I compare it to Howard Stern when he kind of just snapped to Mama Lick a Boo Boo Day, and he's like, instead of just being the typical radio jock, DJ disc jockey, he just said, I'm just going to start just, letting my crazy thoughts out there. And I said, you know what? I'm going to just start blogging. And instead of blogging like I was probably during the time, or tweeting, just straight up, opinions everyone has done at some point, I said, let me just kind of like give the Barstool edge to it. So I did that, started my own blog. Summer of 2014, KFC and his brother reached out to me. And they said, hey, man, we love your stuff. I'd interact with the guys on Twitter and stuff like that. And they said, hey, man, we love your stuff. See you blogging. Their podcast, KFC Radio, at that point was obviously live. They said, we started a website called kfcradio.com. People can come look at the podcast. And we kind of want to make it, we want to have a blog involved with it as well. So I said, awesome. That sounds good. They said, would you like to come, work it for free? I said, yep, no doubt. So started blogging there, kind of everything I would put on my site. And it was very much similar stuff you'd see at Barstool. Funny news story. Rip it, write a couple jokes, call it a day, and did that for about 3 months or so. And KFC was like, hey, man, I really like the stuff you're putting on there. Would you like to come on full-time, or not full-time? Would you like to be the Knicks blogger at Barstool? So part-time, not getting paid anything, but come on and be the Knicks blogger. So it's like, hell yeah. Like, that's how you get your foot in the door. Tons of other guys have obviously done the same in different cities, because at that point we were a very city-driven site. And another thing I had done in 2014, earlier in the year, because I was desperate to get a job there, I taught myself how to use Adobe Flash, I believe it's called, and I started a soundboard. Do you guys know what soundboards are, right? You click the little thing, and so I ripped like a million Mike Francesa like MP3s, and then I did a Barstool one as well. I went to like old rundowns, old KFC radios, old podcasts, old clips, and I had a Portnoy section, a KFC, a Big Cat, Feidelberg, and then kind of just like a general. So if something like Smitty had a funny line, I'd throw it in there. I'd have a couple of the emergency press conference songs, stuff like that, right? So I made a fucking soundboard. I still can't. If you ask me to do it right now, it gave me a year. I wouldn't be able to figure it out without having to like watch a YouTube on it. But I did that, and I think they were like, this guy like kind of knows his stuff, cares, and has half a brain at least. So then I did for basically a year. I wrote as the Knicks blogger, and then Kevin said, you write as the Knicks. Anytime a Knicks story happens, you blog it. And then if on the weekend you see something that's a good blog it, throw it in there, and then if it's good, I'll put it up on the site. And I was like, sold. And I just worked my ass off. Anytime I saw a story, put it in there. And then as a Giants fan and a Mets fan, he's like, if you want to write about that stuff, you can. He's obviously a Mets fan. We had 610, who's a great Giants blogger, and he's like, if anything slips through the cracks, take it. So I did that for about a year. And I still remember I was in Costco getting some batteries, and I got a text on my phone, and Kevin was like, hey, man, Dave saw your stuff, really likes it, wants to hire you full time. This was November of 2015, and I was just like, holy crap. So said, all right. He said, set up a meeting with Dave. And this was right before Chernin came in. So I think at that point he was negotiating with Chernin, and I met him down in the city around the block from where we ended up having HQ2. And he said, they were looking at, I think they probably looked at it that day because the hotel they were staying at was right there. And I saw Big Cat in the elevator as he was passing. We passed each other, which was cool. And he's like, hey, man, love the stuff. So I went, talked to Dave, and he's like, yeah, he's like, we're 99% selling to this guy or someone else at some point, if not him. So we're going to get some money. We're going to get everyone together in New York. Love to have you. Love what you do. I said, think in my head, okay, yeah, I'll think about it. And I was like, I would have done it for free, you know what I mean? Or whatever it costs for a baby to keep a baby alive. That's what I had. That was the only thing I had to worry about, was paying my mortgage with my wife who has a job, and then keep my baby alive. And then by the grace of God, got hired in like end of no. I got like the offer like November 1st and like November 30th in Portnoy style. I like emailed him 3 times like, "Hey Dave, was wondering," and ghosts, crickets, nothing. And then finally I got the offer and shit. So yeah, it's 10 years this year in November. So that's how I got the origin story and then kind of just like took off from there. And the best thing about Barstool is you guys know like if you have something you like, you kind of can just like blog with it, podcast, whatever, run with it, and just been doing a bunch of just people are like, "Oh, you work for Barstool?" I'm like, "Yep, I'm a professional idiot on the internet. That is my job, and that's what I love to do."
Great,
I mean,
great
Clem,
segue. Go
yeah,
ahead.
you have an amazing job, and I think you do a lot of fun aspects of like things that you're interested in life. Obviously we talked a little bit about your sports fandoms with, the Mets, the Knicks, and the Giants. But I'm also a self-proclaimed nerd. I love Star Wars. I love Marvel. So obviously I'm a big fan of My Mom's Basement. But there are so many other things that you do at Barstool, such as the dozen, the Snack Boys, and obviously some appearances on the Rundown as well. What are some of the favorite things that you've done at Barstool at your time?
Oh man. I mean, that's the thing. Like if I like it, I'm gonna do it. And I think the best thing about Barstool in general is the passion usually comes out when someone likes what they're doing, right? And everyone can kind of put the humor side of it if you have, the humor bone in you. But I think it's the passion that kind of like Dave always says, authenticity always wins. I think that's why a guy like Robbie could just talk about Star Wars for hours nonstop. One of my favorite things I loved at Barstool, it was early Barstool, was I had a podcast called No Quitters, which was an MTV The Challenge podcast. So the reality show. And man, I started it just like Captain Khan's this guy who works for Barstool did Zero Block 30. He wanted to do a podcast about the challenge, and I was like, "Yep, I'm in." And I hit up Big Cat, and I was like, "Hey man, you're the challenge blogger at Barstool. I just got hired like the week before, and I said I don't want to step on any toes. If you don't want me to do the podcast, I won't. But this guy reached out to me, wants to do it. He's like, no, he's like, I'd like to join it with you. I was like, Big Cat wants to do a podcast with me, sold, and that was just incredible. And it was my first introduction, I think, to like because I was now a part of Barstool and people like knew this guy Clem and I was starting to like get a little bit of a profile on the site that I really got to like interact with people a lot more. And I feel like people that love the challenge are some of my favorite people because they appreciate the humor and the stupidity that I mean most reality game shows have, Surviving Barstool included. And it was just so much fun, and we worked our butts off on it, and we interviewed some people, and we would live tweet it during the show and all that kind of stuff. And like that was my first like holy crap, I can't believe this is my job moment of Barstool. So that's the first thing. But everything you talked about that I've done. I love doing. I love Snack Boys with Eddie in particular. I said to Eddie, he came on, he became part of No Quitters when we redid it during the pandemic. I was like, dude, if you want to come on, I just would love to just like do some stuff with you, like podcasts or whatever. So I just love doing stuff with Eddie. Same with Robbie. We did some stuff with the Lights Camera Barstool Boys during the pandemic, like rewatching Star Wars movies and stuff like that. The dozen is I can't believe what it's grown to. It's just so much fun. So there's nothing I don't love. The rundown every single time. You never know who you're going to get like on a rundown with and what takes people are going to go with. I love it all, man. And that's the thing. Like if I don't like something, I just will kind of just like I'm not going to go that way. Just it's easy clicks or whatever. It's just I just do what I love, and I think it always shines through on our site. You can tell when someone is into that thing, whatever it may be.
Clem, are there any Barstool personalities that you would like to do content with in the future that you haven't worked with
Oh,
yet?
that's a good question. I haven't really thought about that. I mean, yeah, pretty much. There's no one that I'm like, oh, I don't want to do anything with them. You
Of
know what
course,
I mean?
yeah.
Like, it's just like, so I work remote, and I told you guys this story before we went live, but it was like Dave one day was like, I went into the office, and Dave's like, dude, how long does it take you to get in here? Because he had heard like people talking about it, and I was like, oh, I was like, door to door was like 2.5 hours. It's like I got out of the house, I had to drop my daughter off at I think at that point she was at daycare. And then I had to go to the train and then walk, yada yada, transfer, blah blah blah. 2.5 hours door to door. And he was like, "What the fuck?" And he wrote a blog saying, "I think I have to fire Clem." That was the blog, and I was like, "What the?" Fuck? And it was like, "I have to, like, I can't. This guy's gonna kill himself. He's gonna die on the street, coming to work." And then I wrote a blog saying, "I don't think Dave should fire Clem. I think that would be a bad idea." But he said to us after he said to me like at the end of the day, he's like, "Dude, listen, like you don't have to come in every single day or like even every week. Just come in whenever you can. We love having you, but like you can just do most of your job at home. You come in if you have to do a podcast, interview, whatever it may be." And like that's the thing about Dave. Like he takes a lot of crap for a lot of things he's said, done, and whatever. but pretty much anyone who's ever worked for him will say he's an awesome boss. And at that point, it was like one of my first experiences with him. And I'm like, man, that was like incredible. And trust me, man, I took that, this was before remote learning and Zoom and all this stuff was so prevalent. I was like, yeah, I will be staying at home a lot more now. So I don't have to do 5-hour commutes every single day and spending God knows how much on train fare. So what I'm getting at is, I wish I was like in the Chicago office. When I'm in the Chicago office, it's like, oh man, like I'd love to just hop on here. But like the cool thing is like with a thing like Snack Boys, we can get someone on for a review, right? So it's like Jersey Jerry's like the sweetest dude of all time. And I don't think he's been on yet. I'd love to have someone like him on with it. I love doing stuff with Brandon Walker. He plays like the role of the heel or the Brandon Walker persona so well. All the guys in New York, I love just being around Rico. He's such a crazy person. And that's the thing. Like I snippets of it when we do Met streams or you're in the dozen and you're facing a team. But like that's one of the cool things of this company. We all, like Dave says, we all have weird brains and we all kind of just click off each other. And I don't know if you guys would agree, but I truly do think like we've definitely siloed off a lot more probably since the pandemic, because that's just what happened at a lot of places. I think Barstool is at its best when all those brains are together and the kinetic energy is bound, like the Surviving Barstool, any of the other game shows, the dozen, right? I think when Barstool is all together, or you throw 3 random people in a rundown, I think you get a lot of I think that's where you get some of the best stuff we have here, to be honest with you.
Hey, that's awesome.
Go ahead, Chris.
I was gonna say that's awesome, but before I go into that, like I don't know if these guys have told you, but we've had some Barstool guys on before, and they've pretty much reiterated exactly what you said about Dave and how he's just really a guy, and just the more I hear it and the more I grew up with him, it's like the more it just like is embedded into me about how much of a stand-up guy he is. But I mean you kind of segued yourself perfectly into my question where is there anything that's up and coming for you, or is there anything, let's say, that you've done in the past that we should watch?
Let's see. Nothing up and coming as of now. Nothing new up and coming that I could think of. Now the dozen season's back in. Eddie and I want to grow Snack Boys a lot more, and we've had like it's obviously tough being in different cities, and we've had some issues with shooting and stuff. But it's funny, like a lot of times these things, like the dozen was something I didn't see coming. One day, Jeff's like, "Hey, you want to be on the show? I'm trying out. Sure, let's just rock." And you could never in a million years say you're gonna be on. I'm gonna be with Eddie and Rico, and then Rico's not gonna show up because he has a beef with Cons, and then Dave's gonna stick it to Rico, join the squad, and then like that's the best thing of Barstool. It's stuff you cannot possibly plan. I know we were talking about potentially doing like a little. I think we're gonna try to grow the Mets Aliens, the Mets Aliens brand that we have, which was all us idiots in the cave watching the Mets game. I think there was talk of a spring training trip, which is a drive to spring training, which I don't know if I could actually survive. I think there would be multiple fatalities if that happened.
Would you? Yeah. So what would happen with Frank on that drive? I mean, that would.
Oh my God.
The thing is, I think we have good Frank for now with the Mets, unless something like catastrophic happened in spring training. I think he'd be good, but we then have Devils Frank, right? And then the Dolphins are, they're going to do something stupid, right, in the next couple of months, and like Tankis Eruptus at any given moment. So. And then just being on a road trip with people, you're just going to have things that probably might piss you off and stuff like that. So that was something that was thrown around. I don't know if it's going to happen. I know we're trying to think of sponsors and whatever. And it's like already like once football season ends, you're like, oh crap, like baseball season's around the corner. So we have to start actually getting foot to ground on that, which is like Barstool's not their best attribute right there. So, and I mean, like I did Podfathers back in the day, my parenting podcast. And I always say, if you're a parent that's about to have your first kid, especially our first 3 episodes, and then the first 3 episodes of 2020, we did like, hey, what to expect when you're expecting kind of thing, except the guys version. And we don't have all the little BS in there. We tell you like it is. We tell you if we're actually probably a little too strong. It's like the good and bad, the ugly. We're like the bad, the ugly, and the ugliest. But it's a very important thing, and we redid it again in 2020, like an updated version of it after we had a little more experience in life. But yeah, it's kind of like I kind of just always have my name out there, and I love doing stuff with everyone and kind of just see where it takes me next. So nothing on the agenda as of now, but hopefully soon.
Have you guys ever thought about putting those into a book, like what to expect when you're expecting, just like kind of what you guys did on the podcast?
I think KFC had thought that in the way beginning when we were because that's the thing. Everyone reads the books, and he's always wanted the books, and the books are bullcrap, is what they are. And you don't realize it until you're in it, and you're in a war against dirty diapers and 2 a.m. wake up calls, right? So he always said he wanted to do like a real version of it. I don't know how many people are actually smart enough to write a book here at Barstool. That's Francis is like the only one. He'd be like the author. Like I know Dave was saying he might do his autobiography. Well, Francis would just have to be like the author. It's like we need a book. Francis has to write it. We just tell him stuff, and he'll like put it into English on paper for us. Essentially,
He's the ghostwriter. He's the Barstool ghostwriter.
He's great. He's
Exactly.
great. He's great.
He's
I
awesome.
think,
Beers.
I think what you
Is he the
said
one eating
about
the shrimp cocktail?
Oh, I'm happy I wasn't there for that one. Oh man, I'm not a
The
seafood guy.
first video I saw of him was, and I was doing this before him was, and I'm pretty sure it was him was, he was in traffic and there was someone behind him and everyone just kept passing him. So he like got into the other lane and he was like, nope, I'm staying.
the lane.
Yeah, I always did that. Yeah, I fucking love that. It's like, I looked at that lady. This person behind me is beeping. It's quite intimidating. I'm not going to lie, but I'm holding my ground. I love that. That's an all-time.
That was classic. Yeah.
I think that what Clem said though, like Barstool's at its best when the whole crew's together and all the different personalities are able to be together. I think we saw it early, like the combine with KFC and Big Cat and Hank, like that's just a OG Barstool video. The
Renaissance
early
Fair.
run, the King Richard's Fair.
King Richard for sorry.
That was
sorry.
good. The salsa contest.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, the salsa contest. Oh,
so many good videos. Yeah. we've been there through it all. And we really can't thank you enough for jumping on with us, Clem. It's been a lot of fun and thank you for taking the extended time to go through all the things that have been happening in sports over the past couple of weeks and obviously the Super Bowl and previewing some of the upcoming baseball season and playoffs. And your Barstool history is fantastic. We enjoy all the content that you do and we'll do this again down the road. It's been a lot of fun.
heck yeah, man. Thank you guys for letting me relive my hellacious weekend as a sports fan. I appreciate the platform for that to relive all my misery. No, I'm just kidding. I'm happy. I'm just happy I got to meet Sam. I honestly thought we weren't going to get there, and I was like, I'm just going to know of R2S2.
Let's get you to a Fenway Mets Sox game this year.
Let's do it.
Man, I haven't.
That's my goal.
I went to Fenway, I think, in 05, and I don't think I've been back since. And I actually have a good buddy of mine who's down in Cape Cod that I always try to get out to visit. So that's kind of two birds, one stone. Hit up the Cape, hit up the Sox. And actually, I heard that Fenway is a pretty good time for, at least my friend took her kids to Imagine Dragons out there, and they had a blast. So I heard it's a decent concert venue if you maybe hit the right one. So I got to do the outfield seats? I can't do the regular Fenway seats that are made in like 1910s.
Bleachers. How would you standing room?
Yeah, I could do that.
Well, there's Fenway's a good time. Great concerts. We've all been to see the current version of the Grateful Dead, Dead and Company there a few times.
Yes.
Saw Blink 182 there last year. So it's similar to Wrigley where it's a neighborhood style vibe and you're able to sort of walk right out of a bar into Gabe lives like 5 minutes away. You can walk from his house
That's a beautiful
Gasparilla
thing.
Park.
Well,
Yeah.
what is it, Yawkey Way, right? Where I remember I went there and I was like, holy shit, like, and Mets infamously had chop shops behind Shea for years, and we're finally going to get like what you guys have there probably in the next 10 years. We call it Uncle Stevie Land, essentially. So it's so awesome, man.
Bob
It's
Kraft did the same thing. So
hey.
it's Uncle Stevie Land will be amazing, and I mean it's a great place. Well, keep us posted. We'll make it happen if you're able to make it up this way. Any other Barstool folks want to come? We know where to get tickets and how to find them. We'll take good care of our friends at Barstool. In all seriousness, Barstool's been an unbelievable I don't want to say partner because we're not partners, but like the graciousness that everybody at Barstool that's come on. We've had Jenks, Jerry Thornton, Marina. I feel like I'm missing 2 or 3 other people, but just you guys are all unbelievable with your time in giving it to other platforms and supporting them. So I don't want that to go unnoticed as well. Like it's really appreciated. And I think it goes back to what you were saying about Dave. Like Dave set the tone for that, and you see all the other things that he does with his time. Some of it noticed, some of it not noticed, but I think that's like matriculated throughout Barstool as well. So you guys catch a lot of shit for some things, sometimes deservedly so, with some of the nonsense. Sure. But for the most part, like you guys are the same exact as us. Just want to come on and shoot the shit and have a good time.
Yep. Hey, man, seriously, thanks for having me. And I don't know if they're at Fenway this year, but if so, and it works out, like, there's nowhere I'd rather be than just like, it's been a while. I need to go back and see the Ted Williams seat in the whole nine. So thanks for having me. And hopefully, like you said, do it again soon. Oh, I got to wait till the Knicks at least beat the Celtics one time before I come on. That's all I'm asking. Because it's
All
like,
right.
you guys are so nice. You're like, oh no, the Knicks, they tried hard. It was really good. It's like, God damn it. They lost by 30 every
Yeah,
single time.
you need some ammo. Yeah.
Yeah, at least a little something. I got to be able to hold my head high at least. You know, you guys.
I mean, I'm sure if we face each other in the playoffs, they'll win at least one game.
I hope so, but I'm not
It'll be a
after this last game.
series.
Yeah.
Also, I need K2S2 to be in attendance, unless it's at the bottom of the Charles River. I want to see Sam.
It's probably going to be at the bottom of the Charles River.
Well, it might be
We'll
in
see-
two
we'll see
parts,
what
but we'll
happens.
bring it with us.
Yeah. You
It'll
just
be
show
in
it to
parts.
me, waterlogged. as it's
This
dripping.
was the motherboard.
Oh my God, what a time. Well, we'll help Kraz with his issues. Clem, thanks a lot. We appreciate it. Hope you have a great rest of your evening and enjoy the rest of the week.
You too, my friend. You guys take care. All right, nice meeting y'all.
You
All
too.
right.
Have a
See
great
you,
night,
see
my
you, Clem.
friend. Pleasure
Later,
meeting.
guys.
All right, there he is, Clem, with an unbelievable extended run with us here on the Boston Sports Brothers podcast.
What a
Kraz
guy.
able to jump in with us. We've had some awesome guests, just like like between him and Sarge and obviously Irky. The last three guests that we've had have just been like being able to shoot the breeze and get into it the way we have. Kraz, we know you had some technical difficulties, so I want to give you
Yes.
a
Apologies.
short platform. As we've talked about, I'm out here on the West Coast and see the time ticking up here and have a fucking dinner I
So-
gotta get to. But you,
I
give us-
mean,
give us
nothing
Super Bowl
really
takeaways,
big to
anything.
touch on. One thing I do want to touch on as my computer was updating, I noticed that Nolan Arenado put out something cryptic, and I think John Morosi said that a deal is almost finalized actually for Nolan Arenado to come here. Whether or not that holds truth, I don't know, but that's just what I was seeing.
Don't shoot the messenger.
Oh yeah, please. Just Paul Revere here. Just letting you know.
All right, Big E, let's do it. I feel like we segued around town with Clem the entire time, pretty much, and
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
we
he-
didn't talk about the Bruins, but the Bruins roller
Oh,
coaster
yeah.
again. Nothing else is
They
different.
don't really
Like,
deserve much.
they don't
talk,
deserve
you know?
airtime, right? So I think it's time for our favorite section of the week. It's time for the things that we don't really like and the things that we love. Oh yeah! All right, who wants to kick
That
it
one
off
broke
with
It
a?
broke the scale there.
I broke the scale. Oh,
You
well,
did.
I'm glad. We just have to increase the scale
Oh
next time.
yeah, scale.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah!
Gabe, I think you
The
had one.
Avenger in you.
Yeah, Mr.
Yeah,
Strongman.
Hey,
man.
Mr. Strongman. And Popeye. Don't forget about Popeye either.
All right, Gabe,
I
I
have
think you had an
spinach.
yeah in there.
Yeah, I got an oh yeah for Dickie V. Dick Vitale returned to the broadcasting table at the Duke Clemson game this I think it was Saturday. He returned. Oh man, Dickie V is one of my favorite broadcasters. I don't know about you guys, but just like the diaper dandy, like everyone has like a Dickie V impression, and it was so nice to like just hear his voice again on the broadcast. Obviously, you could tell like he's been through a lot with radiation and chemo therapies, and his voice, has taken a hit from that. But it was unbelievable. I had to tune in for that one. I fucking love Dickie V. So I don't know about you guys, but
He's
It's a
the
safety net.
personification of college basketball. Like he is the most
It's a
excited
safety net.
person.
He's like the
for-
last guy that we have.
Well, and like I think, the thing that's cool about him too is he was really close with Jim Valvano, and like I think like maybe if he didn't have that experience, maybe he would have hung it up. But I think like he is so determined to make sure that cancer doesn't prevent him from doing what he loves. So glad to have him back. I think like we got to cherish Dickie V on the airwaves as long as we can, just because he's getting a little bit older. Not anything to do with the cancer stuff, but Dickie V can only do this for so long, and I think that's a good segue to the next oh yeah I have, and want to give an oh yeah to Hubie Brown, who wrapped up his illustrious NBA announcing career after his time as a head coach at 91. I watched a little bit of that game yesterday against the Bucks. And I don't even remember who the Bucks were playing.
Philly.
And Philly, yeah, because Philly kind of sucked. That's okay. I think Philadelphia fans were okay with the result of that game with what happened after that.
Yeah,
But just
they're
yeah,
fine.
Yeah, Hubie
What
just
Sixers game?
yeah, right. But I think just in general, just want to give Hubie his flowers. He's an all-time great behind the mic, and certainly will be missed, and hope he enjoys his retirement. All these guys that we grew up listening to, Mike Gorman, Hubie Brown, just retiring. It's sad.
Yeah, Kraz said it. There's few of them left. So as Gabe said, when we get the chance to tune into the big
Mistakes is
games that they're
gone.
doing, it's more than worthwhile to do that. So great for Dickie V. Hubie Brown, legendary career. He wasn't my favorite, but for the longevity that he had, and his insight to be able to work until the age that he did is unbelievable. So congrats to him. And then we have one more. Oh yeah, here, former Celtic. Nate Robinson had to have a kidney transplant, so successful for him. Any thoughts on that? Happy for him to be able to go through that. Know that that process is one a journey.
Yeah, for sure. I think I feel like Nate Robinson has been on that journey for a while now, looking for a recipient, kidney donor.
5 years
So
around that.
yeah, so for him to finally, I have some personal experience with that. I don't need to go into it, but like, for someone to go through that for 5 years, and he was probably on dialysis and doing all that, it's just really tough. It takes a lot out of you. So, for him to finally get that transplant, I know how he must be feeling, and it's a really good feeling. So, props to Nate Robinson, and I hope he recovers quickly from that.
That
Yeah,
kind of good news, always great to hear. And Nate Robinson, legendary Celtic when he was here for the cup of coffee that he was here. The
striking
Piggyback
kidney,
donkey,
ride.
yeah,
striking
the pit,
donkey.
Shrek and
yeah,
Donkey, baby. That
the
was a
and
great
the
combo.
There was nothing better. There was a game. Too bad Clem's gone because there was a game versus the Knicks when Paul Pierce hit a pull up jumper to win the game at the end. And there's a great video of Nate Robinson jumping on his back, and
Just
he like goes ass over tea kettle over Paul at the end of the game, and I thought like busted himself up pretty good. Was going to be injured after that, but he was a great Celtic. Obviously, he was the OG dunk
they should have
contest
won that
little
year.
guy that won, or was in it and had incredible performances. So all good stuff here on Nate Robinson. Let's see any Ohs from this week. I think we're clear of the Ohs, which is great.
Yeah,
And I think
Adam Vinatieri did not get into the Hall of
yeah,
Fame.
Yeah,
nonsense,
I
nonsense.
No,
think I heard some things about this, and like Ray Guy, who's the best punter of all time historically, and I think like they've even said like no one has even come close to him. They said it took him like 10 years to get in. So like Adam is definitely going to get in, but I think they look at players, even like the best at their positions for skill players and specialists, as like not a first time ballot Hall of Famer. Just like they didn't get Eli in. Eli will probably get in at some point because he's won two Super Bowls, but there was no way that apparently he was going to
stupid
get
because
in.
he doesn't have Hall of Fame numbers.
No, we
Come
didn't get
at
into
me,
that with
you Giants
Yeah,
fans.
that's. I'm just using him as another juxtaposition because both of them didn't get in. But yeah,
yeah.
Yao for Adam Vinatieri, best kicker all time league history,
He
can't
started.
get
I
in
mean,
on the
that's what
first go
started the
around.
dynasty.
Most
Well, I mean,
clutch
that's not what
kicker.
started it, but
I
Yeah.
can't believe he played 24 seasons.
Yeah,
That's
Just
like, can we
incredible.
just get to the field goal line so Vinatieri can kick a
he's going to
fucking
be the
field
all
goal and
time
win the
the all
game
time
for
leader in
us?
points, right?
Yep,
it's up
all-time leader in
there.
points.
Yeah,
He's
the
got
fact
four
that that
Super
dude doesn't get
Bowls.
in on first ballot to me is ridiculous.
He's got a Super Bowl, three with the Patriots, one with the Colts. Like
Yep.
Colts.
he's done
Yep.
it with two teams. How
He's
do you
got
not?
a famous kick in the snow with the Patriots. You know that there was no championship with
But
that game, but one of the best of all time.
wasn't Indianapolis a dome, anyways? Don't they have a dome?
Yeah. They got it
Neither
down
here
there.
nor there. Neither
All
here
right.
nor there.
The other was the NBA trade deadline, which had a ton of movement all over. I think the one that sticks out is Marcus Smart on the move to the Wizards. Just like
Poor Marcus Smart.
yeah, but you also have to give it's a reminder of the credit to Brad Stevens. It sucked to part with him. Same thing with Smart. He wasn't my favorite. I think he took way too many shots at the end of these games that he shouldn't have. And in the locker room wasn't letting Brown and Tatum be the players that they needed to be for this team. And that's ultimately why it wasn't necessarily his play, it was some of those other things. But I mean, kudos to Brad Stevens for doing what he did. A hard trade to make, but it's worked out. It's
I
worked
think
out.
one trade
Did
that
we
had.
touch?
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, did we touch on the whole Kyrie Irving comment about Anthony Davis and KD coming here to play with Jalen and JT.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm
Last
You
pretty
week.
sure
guys
we
did?
did. I'm
Okay.
pretty sure we did. Yeah.
One
Um,
one
Go
trade
ahead,
that
Gabe.
had me shaking in my boots a little bit was the DeAndre Hunter trade. The
it's a
Hawks
great trade.
get rid of him, send him to the Cavs. Um, DeAndre Hunter he's a good player.
He's a Celtic killer.
He can D up, he can score. That move definitely raised some flags in my head a little bit. I just think that makes the road out of the East a little bit tougher now for the Celtics. But the Celtics really solidified themselves as the beast of the East, I think, this past week.
Yeah, with
For
their win
sure.
against the
And
Cavs, which was huge.
Yeah.
and what it comes down to really is, and Gabe, you said it perfectly, is everyone's or those teams are building their teams to slow down JT and JB. So it's going to be guys like Hauser, it's going to be guys like Drew Holiday and Derek White that are going to have to step up and take those big shots to propel us to another championship.
And Peyton Pritchard,
Because
can't forget about him.
And Pritchett, can't forget about Pritchett out on the
Sixth
line.
man of the year.
But
We
no,
call,
I mean,
Claudia called it before
I
the
mean,
year.
I mean, he's gonna get, there's gonna be those times where Jalen's got the ball and he's running down and he's driving and there's 3 or 4 guys on him and he just kicks it out and that guy's gonna hit the shot.
I do have a Yao, and this is the perfect way to spark a Yao. Yao to the NBA for not inviting Peyton Pritchard to the 3-point contest. Yao! Yao! He deserves to be there.
Agreed.
Yeah,
Agreed.
Adam Silver.
All
So
right.
I mean, the movement at this was probably the craziest NBA trade deadline with the moves that made, obviously highlighted by the one we talked about last week. And
Celtics
I
made a
think,
move.
Yeah, they made a small
Torrey
move.
Craig.
Just a small traded JD
yeah,
Springer for some cap space and
So
Yeah.
sign Torrey Craig.
so as we sort of
Averaging
suspected, maybe
6.7 points a game.
some minor tweaks to the roster, but nothing in the major rotation. Um, Look, the Celtics are healthy and they're locked in. They're the best team. We've seen that over the past week or so against some of the competition, especially here in the East. So
Best
let's
team,
do
most
yeah,
titles.
let's do a real quick time capsule as we were talking about New Orleans and any memories from being down there. I think all of us, Big E hasn't been, but the other three of us have been. For me, it's what Clem said, just like an unbelievable place to go with your friends and get after it for a couple days with unbelievable cuisine. The French Quarter has all the music and Frenchman Street and those areas. And
Washboard Jazz.
getting out of New Orleans, and just like Louisiana culture down there, that's like, as he said, almost another world. So, Gabe, Sam, any Bourbon Street memories, New
Yeah,
Orleans memories
yeah.
from your times?
So and I'm not going to speak for Gabe, but the two of us both did some volunteer work down there. We spent a week. It was kind of cool. I'll spend a minute talking about it because it was really interesting. Um, it was like polar opposites. One family that we worked with, and we went with like our Hillel at URI. One of the houses that we went with, the guy was like really super into it. He was like bringing us over like po' boys, which is what they're, sandwiches down there. He was, on the bus, he would like bring us around New Orleans and like be our tour guide. He like brought us over to his like other house that he was living in. Um, and like his wife made us jambalaya. And we were like demoing his house, and this is 5-6 years after Katrina. And then we went and painted someone else's house, and like the person didn't even come out to say hello to us. So it was interesting to see the stark contrasts, to be given that warm hospitality. But as far as memories go, man, these guys were in a strip club, and I was out on Bourbon Street, and it was like literally
Not me.
right
I wasn't there.
after. No, no, I mean, no, I mean, there was like a group of like 10 people, and I was like, I'm not going in. It was like there was cigarette smoke everywhere. It was nasty. I didn't want to go in. And I guess Bama won because Bourbon Street just turned crimson red, and it was just one of the most wild things I'd ever seen. The week that Gabe and I went down there to do volunteer work was the same week that Bama was playing LSU at the Superdome for the National College Championship. I believe it was back in 2012 or yeah, 2012, 2011, right around there. So that was for me absolutely wild. I was waiting outside for these guys to come in, and like it was just a sea of fucking crimson. Like, I mean, shoulder to shoulder like this, like nothing I've ever experienced in my life. And at that point, I was like, okay, I'm going into the strip club because I need to get away from all of this. I mean, literally, like LSU fans were getting punched in the face and stuff. Like it was absolutely one of the most wild things I've ever seen in my life. But
It's
Bourbon
it's
Street is definitely a place to be.
it's a wild place. It's truly another world. Gabe, any NOLA thoughts for you?
Yeah, I mean, NOLA is definitely a very unique city. Yeah, the Sea of Red. If you didn't say Roll Tide, you did not
In
belong there.
trouble.
Yeah, so but I can
You're
imagine
gonna get
that's how it
punched.
was this past weekend with the Sea of Green and all that too. But yeah, we went on that trip. We had dinner on Bourbon Street, and we ran into Derek Williams, a former second round draft pick in the NBA. I don't know where the hell he is now. He kind of busted. And then Anthony Tolliver, where
Overseas.
Yep.
they were sitting right next to us. Got some pictures with them, and that made for another memorable experience down in on Bourbon Street. So good place to go. I'm due for another trip. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
couldn't make it to your bachelor party, but.
So it's all right. We had a great time down there for that. But actually, for me, New Orleans, I was there for work last year around this time actually, and I get down to New Orleans for the conference that I'm going to, and somebody asked me, they're like, "Oh, did you buy a ticket for the grandstand?" And I'm like, "What? What are you talking about?" So I was down in New Orleans during Mardi Gras season, not realizing it, and then was pretty much there for 3 nights of Mardi Gras, full force parades, absolute chaos in the middle of this work event with no like mindset or preparation of going into being there for Mardi Gras. So I enjoyed it to the fullest and embraced
Boobies
it.
everywhere.
Oh my God. Yeah,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
beads and more beads and all the beads. So it's quite a place. And as we
One more
said,
quick one.
if you if you haven't been there, you gotta
Gabe,
go.
and this only I only say this because we just had this person on last week. So this story is pretty much dedicated to Irky. Um, Again, like I said, we were there doing volunteer work. So from 6 a.m. to 5 p.m., we were doing volunteer shit. We were in programming. From like 7 o'clock, we were right off of Canal Street. We would take the trolley right to Bourbon, hop on to Bourbon, grab our drinks in the French Quarter. I mean, grab our drinks and go to the French Quarter. And we would party till like 3 in the morning, at 4 in the morning, maybe get an hour or two of sleep. So we get down to the lower ninth ward for one of the programmings, and we're all on the bus and we get up, and Irky is in the back and he's just conked out, asleep, dead. And I look at Gabe and we're all getting off. I look at Gabe, we look at my buddy Jacob Harris, my brother, and we're just like all instinctively, we're like, yeah, we leave him on the bus. We don't wake him up. And we get off the bus. And Max is on the bus. And Max is asleep on the bus. And then we see the bus take off with Max asleep on the bus. And we're all laughing. And we get inside. And Joey, thank you for putting up with us. We appreciate it. Joey says, she's looking, she goes, "Where's Max?" And we start dying because Max is asleep on the bus. So finally, Max wakes up and scares the shit out of the bus driver because he thinks everyone's off of it and pulls a U-turn. And Matt, "What the fuck, guys? Why don't you wake me up?" So yeah,
Or
that was
he
my
can sleep
Oh.
anywhere, anytime. We've seen it. We've seen it. So it's New Orleans will get you. You never know when you might have to take a nap after being in New Orleans. So uh we're gonna wrap it up here on this on the pod. Kraz, sorry about your technical difficulties there, but we're back next week. The Pike, really, the games kind of get put on pause here. NHL All-Star weekend coming up, so not too much there, but we'll really get into the Bruins and if they're going to be able to make a run to the playoffs. They had a really shitty loss to the Golden Knights on Saturday on my way out here, and then the Celtics a few games, and then
penultimate.
All-Star weekend coming up as well for them. So next week, Andy Gresh on the Boston Sports Brothers podcast.
Ooh,
Nice guest.
Fresh.
We'll get into back to more of our usual episode. A huge thank you to Clem. That was absolutely awesome just to be able to go through everything he did, and one of the most epic moments on the podcast we've ever seen. With if you watch the video and you've made it this far into the show tonight, you will see me, Gabe, and Eric just laughing our ass off every time Sam tried to get back on. And when you finally did and went on your rant, it's an all-time moment that should this podcast ever become something big, that's one that will live in the Hall of Fame.
I mean, I think there were a couple moments. The first one, he looked like he was living in the dark, and I was like, "All right, Sam, you're creeping us out over there." So there was that one.
My light was off. It was just
then
like,
we told Clem the story of
man.
R2S2, and then there was a time where we were seeing double. Then you sent us the picture that your computer needed to restart like 5 times. Oh, it was just epic, and the rant was all time. So
And one of the funniest thing is,
With Clem
I did the old school smack, and I smacked the laptop, and then boom, internet came right back on perfect.
That's not the first freak out Clem has seen.
No, he's been around the block once or twice to see different things. So, big thank you to Clem. And with that, we're gonna wrap it up here on the pod. Thanks to everybody for tuning in near far, wherever you are. We will see you next time.
Erev Tov.